Hey guys, welcome back to Beach and Fishing, my site and channel aimed at everything to do with fishing. I'm an avid fisherman, certainly not a professional, and just love doing it and writing about it. And today I'm going to talk to you about my 3 best trolling motors for a kayak. Something that when I first wrote this post, I actually didn't have one, and as it says on top of the post, I wrote it based on a friend of mine who turned up. He's one of these guys who, once he decides he's going to do something, buys everything, and he's got the bells and whistles for everything. I'm a bit slower catching up, mind you, but he turned up with a kayak trolling motor and cruised up and down the estuary that we fish in with it, and I went and bought one myself, mainly for the fact that where I fish, it's a tidal estuary, and it turns into a little river up further. And the tide's quite strong, and where we launch the kayaks, we really can only go if we go with a paddle on the top of high tide, so we can float up and then wait for the tide to turn and then float back, because the only launch part is very close to the mouth. So if the tide's flowing out, there's not a great area that we can go to, and once we wash all the way down to the mouth, it's really hard to paddle back. So the kayak motor for me, once I looked at how my friend was using his, it really was something that sort of became something I was interested in and thought I would get. So I did get myself one. So this is a little trolling motor. So trolling motors on boats, you see them on large boats all the time, and they're designed so that they sit in the water, and they normally foot operated, and the boat can move around and sort of move up and down, either keeping the lure or the bait moving in the water, if that's the sort of fish that the people are chasing. And it can move them from A to B, especially against the current, without having to start the outboard and get back to where they're going. They can just troll back with the motor. On a kayak, mind you, they're a littler version, and they are just designed to move us along. So this attaches to the side of my kayak onto a little bracket. Down the bottom, you'll see a link under where I got mine. I've actually reviewed this motor as well, and there's a video on there which will show it in use. So you'll be able to see where it sits and how it all works. But basically, it sits on the kayak beside me like that. Obviously, I've got it higher, and I just steer it along like so. I cruise up with it so I can go in the kayak now anytime. I cruise up with it against the tide if need be, or if the tide's going in, I just paddle up like I normally would, and the motor just sits there when it's time to come home. Or if the wind gets up, I just turn it round and it motors me home. This one, as I say, is small. It's 24-pound thrust, which I've read in places that it's basically 2 pounds for every 100 pounds on your kayak. This one does come in an 18-pound. I've got an 8.5 foot sit on top model, and this, on the 2 speed settings that it's got, fast and slow and a reverse, it does more than I need it to get it around where I'm going with me in it and my rods and anything else. Not that everything else is very heavy, but it still has it on there. So what do we look for when we're looking at a kayak motor for our kayak? We look for, there's a number of things. Sorry about the pause there. I hope I've continued this on. Someone turned up with delivery. So what we look for in a kayak motor there, a trolling motor, is a couple of things. Is the thrust size, as I've mentioned. If you're on a smaller vessel like I am, like 24 pounds is more than ample to get my little 8.5 foot sit on top kayak there. Obviously, the larger your vessel, probably the larger the thrust you might want to go for. This one being a cheaper model, I guess you'd want to call it, certainly not in function, but in price. It only has 2 speed, fast and slow. The trolling for this, the more speed settings you have, the easier it is to get yourself a speed where if you want to do troll with a lure behind, you've got more variation there. I've had this on the fast will get me absolutely anywhere I need to be. On the slower setting, depends on the tide as to how effective the trolling works on it. If the tide's going too fast, it works well because I almost come to a stop, so I can sort of stay in one area. but on a lesser tide, I control with it quite well. So obviously the more you want control over what you're doing, the more settings you'll want there. This one has a reverse, and some of them have more than one reverse setting as well, which is good on a kayak if you're, because the tide will turn your vessel round. So if you want to go backwards against that thing to keep yourself in spots, pretty good. As I say, this is a 12 volt. The length of the I can't think of the word I'm trying to use. We'll just call it the pole length. The pole length down to the rotor. This is variable, so I can move it up and down, and I do so if I want to take it out of the water. I just move it to there, and it just sits out of the water and drops up and down. This is 24 inch. This one. If you're on a higher kayak or on its sit-in model where you've got your motor sitting on top, you might want a slightly longer rotor arm. I think they're called rotor arms. Or if you're on a bigger ocean going kayak, you might want one that's slightly deeper to keep it under the water in the waves and the like as well. Because if it starts spitting out of the water, you're A, going to lose traction, and B, it's a lot noisier. This is a two-prong rotor. Some of them come with 3. Some of them are brushless, like your high quality tools. This is quite flimsy. This one, I need to get some spares because you can see it's starting to. I don't know if you can see it's starting to bend at the bottom there, so a stronger version of that might be necessary. Apart from that, this one has a couple of tiller arms. That one pops out. If I've got this on a transom mount, that just pops out and I can use that. That said, this is on a bracket mount, so it's got the larger tiller arm there. So I like the large tiller arm. I know people have taken them off and just use a smaller one. That's my mounting. Mine's got a bracket. Some of them come with transom mounts, so it's got the little screw-on bracket at the back. I really can't think of much more than that. Let me just have a look at the post and see if there's any specs that I've missed that I should explain. No, all good. That's about it. So that's what I would be looking for in a kayak motor. Again, as I say, make sure that the pounder thrust is strong enough to push your vessel along. If you're on a bigger option, go the bigger thrust. As I say, a lot of the research, I can't find any of the specs of the actual the motors themselves, but some of my research, I've found a couple of guys in their posts have talked about 2 pounds of thrust per 100 pounds of weight. So I've seen that in more than one place. So if I see it in more than one place, that's what I'll take. And the rest of it, quality comes with price. This one's a good, decent price. Let's have a look at the 3 that I've come up with. And this one wasn't one of those originally. So I've got in here, the post just talks about everything I've been talking about, what you're looking for. This one's about the one that I use. So it's the water snake. There's all the settings for it there. And there's option there, $178 on Amazon. I paid $150 for mine on special, which is good. One thing to keep in mind with all of these, you do need to buy a battery and you do need to buy a charger for that battery. So you're looking at anywhere between another couple of $100 to $300 or $400 for a good battery and a charger to go with that. My battery, I haven't got it written in here, but a single 12 volt, small battery, I think it cost me about $100. And I bought a charger recently for another battery that I've got, and it was about 110 or 120. So I spent $220 extra, and that was not going the high quality options. Anyway, so the 3 I've come up with, this Newport Vessels one, 36 pounds of thrust, 24-inch shaft, the same as mine. A little bit cheaper than when I paid. 36 pounds, 8 speeds, aluminium motor head, 24-inch adjustable, 6-inch tiller. And it's got a transom mount which will fit onto the mounting bar, and it'll run at 1.5 hours continuous. Most of them base that on a 20 amp hour battery. So 1.5 hours, that's continuous running, and you rarely use them continuously. Battery indicator, long cables, 2 blade propeller, the same as mine. It's got a circuit breaker in it, and it runs on a single 12 volt battery. So that's a good one for that price, with good reviews. I always look at the reviews as well. Next one's a little bit more expensive. Minn Kota is a very well-known brand of trolling motors. This one is a 45-pound thrust. So this one, if you want to get into rougher waters or a slightly larger vessel than mine, as I might say, mine's about 8.5 foot. You could step up to this one, a little bit more expensive, obviously. 36-inch adjustable rotor, so it's a longer rotor shaft there. 6-inch tiller, transom mount on the side. Didn't say the run time for this one, but it's 8 speeds. It rotates 180 degrees, 2-blade, and breakaway mounting system. So if it hits the bottom, it will actually pop up and not do any more damage. It has a single 12-volt battery as well. So that's your Minn Kota. Now the next one is getting up to the top of the range type model. It's 110-pound thrust. This is for your big kayaks. If you're using your big ocean-going kayaks and you really want something that's going to work for you out there, then this would be where I was starting to go for. Variable speed, it's like a dial control and handle, like an outboard motor. So the speed works in that way. Brushless motor, 35-inch adjustable rotor length. So that's a long pole there. Again, as we'd say, we're talking about this for the ocean. 6-inch 100-degree folding handle, transom mount, kill switch, LED battery display, 3-blade propeller. And it could actually go up to a little fishing boat as well. The only difference with this one, it runs on 2 12-volt deep cycle batteries. So you'll need one that, obviously with the larger kayak, it can hold the 2 batteries. And you'll need to make sure your chargers can manage that as well. Okay guys, so that is the 3 that I've come up with, plus the one that I use here, which is the water snake, smaller option there. All of them, those ones are good. Have a look in there and you can see all the different types of, if you click on those links, you'll be able to see all the different other types there. But the 3 I've given you, obviously, for the smaller, medium and larger craft, lakes up to the ocean. This one I use in a tidal estuary. It works very well on a smaller craft. Yeah, that's it. Hope that was helpful for you. If you're watching this within YouTube, please like and subscribe to my channel below. That way I can keep you up to date with everything that I find in the world of fishing. If you're watching this within the post, tell me what motor you use, if you use a motor, why you use it, what you use it for, what one you'd recommend, or any experience that you have with the ones that I've listed. Would love to hear from you below and we can have a chat. Okay guys, thanks for that. Happy fishing. Chat to you soon. Bye.